Ladies and gentlemen, this is an article that came out on February 6, 2018 in GQ magazine online. Kellyanne Conway's effort to end the opioid crisis aren't going well. Boy, they shouldn't do close-up shots of her. Okay. In the 14 months that have elapsed since Trump was elected president of the United States, Kellyanne Conway has slowly transitioned from one of the administration's most visible public faces to a new role as its token break glass in case of emergency person who is released from the West Wing storage closet in which she presumably sits only when the White House needs one of her patented inane talking head interviews to divert attention from its latest humiliating scandal. Unfortunately, it turns out that instead of disappearing from public life altogether, Conway has busied herself in recent months with the task of running the government's response to the opioid plague, a public health emergency that kills 175 Americans every day in this goddamn ground. Okay, so Kellyanne has been in that position, but what she is literally doing is not helping the situation at all. White House counselor Kellyanne Conway has taken control of the opioids agenda, quietly freezing out drug policy professionals and relying instead on political staff to address a lethal crisis, claiming about 175 lives a day. The main response so far has been to call for a border wall and to promise a Just Say No campaign. I'm not surprised about this. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, I am not surprised. Because shortly after Trump took office, I did a video on something that Kellyanne Conway said. She said that the junkies out here need to will themselves off of the drugs. Does that sound like somebody that's going to get in a position and help you? So she is saying use willpower if you want to get off of drugs. That don't sound like somebody that's going to be very helpful at all. But she wants to start up another Just Say No campaign. She's not talking treatment. She's not talking any type of rehabilitation. She's not talking about making improvements in drug court or anything. Just say no. But you know what? That was good enough for the crack users. It should be good enough for the opioid addicts out here. That's the campaign you used during the crack epidemic. You felt that was good enough. It wasn't shit. But now you're about to get a dose of your own medicine. I'm glad she's using this campaign for the opioid and drug epidemic going on in the country. Let's see how many people it helped. But I can tell you how many it helped during the crack epidemic. 0. The Office of the National Drug Control Policy has been without a permanent director since Trump, first nominee for the position, Pennsylvania Congressman Tom Marino, withdrew from consideration in light of a history of zealous advocacy for legislation friendly to narcotic manufacturers. As a result, the ONDCP was briefly led by a 24-year-old former campaign staffer who lied on his resume. Oh, yeah, that came out about a week ago, about the length of time he served as vice president of his college fraternity. How the hell does that make you eligible for that kind of job? Oh, I forgot. White privilege. Moving on. A distinction that makes him the least qualified person to hold a White House job, who did not marry one of the president's children. Conway, for some reason, has stepped into this void, steering the administration opioid response strategy with the help of a skeleton crew of political appointees who possess no relevant experience. Remember, Trump is phasing out pretty much the drug czar and underfunded them. You know, he took 95% of their funding away, which eliminated jobs under the drug czar. Politico goes on to quote lawmakers who are baffled by this, in other words, the lack of subject matter people, and who still have no idea which members of the executive branch to work with on proposals for addressing what the president has called one of his top priorities, which he's absolutely ignoring. Most disturbingly, the White House is signaling an intent to fold its opioid response strategy into its arguments for the construction of a border wall, conflating the very real problem of domestic over-the-counter of painkillers with the time-honored scary drugs pouring are into our country from Mexico dog whistle rhetoric. In response to the Trump administration habit of failing to execute its basic responsibility and often repeated reassurance that is there are limits to the impact of any president can have on the government. First of all, Trump has no ability of stopping this 20-year-long drug epidemic in the white community. He has no ability to stop that. He can't stop it. I don't care. Kellyanne Conway can't stop it. Much of the day-to-day work of running a country is entrusted to civil servants and subject matter experts who, while attuned to political realities, are nonetheless insulated from them to a certain extent. When Trump decides to announce sweeping changes to federal policy on Twitter, that's not where he should be announcing that, by the way. That should be in a closed door meeting with his staff, not on Twitter, but we know he has no class or common sense. We count on those people to do what's best for the country and politely ignore him. If they aren't quietly being marginalized in favor of stooges like Conway, however, it's hard to see how one of this country's most pressing and tragic and preventable problems get better anytime soon. Don't count on it. Kellyanne ain't making nothing better in this country, and neither is Trump. Look, the Opioid Commission already said, and I did this video, that every time they made recommendations to Trump, he did the total opposite of what they recommended. He does not listen to them at all. They have also tried to change his mind about providing funds to this opioid epidemic fight, and he won't do it. Trump is doing this in Kellyanne to just make it look like they are doing something about this, but all of the articles coming out are saying the same thing. This administration is doing absolutely nothing that it promised to do about the opioid plague in this country. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell twice. Also, join me on blackspot.com and Black Junction TV. Peace, family.